Welcome into CBS News 24/7. I'm Mugo Odigwe. We begin with breaking news. The House overwhelmingly passes a bill to force the Justice Department to release its trove of files on Jeffrey Epstein.
On this vote, the yeas are 427, the nays are 1. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The House passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act, as you heard there, in a 427-1 vote, sending it to the Senate. The one nay vote came from Republican Representative Clay Higgins of Louisiana. House Speaker Mike Johnson says he expects the Senate to amend the bill, which would then send it back to the House. Let's bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, good to see you today. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer talked about potentially holding the Senate vote as early as tonight. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. He wants this to come to the floor quickly. Now, he is not the leader of the floor, but he is proposing to do this through what's called unanimous consent. And you only need one person to object in order for that not to go through. But we also have heard from Republican leader John Thune, who controls all the floor activities, say that they are interested in taking this up fairly quickly, in his words. So we'll see what the course of action is here. But that's pretty big news, Mugo, considering just about 24 hours ago, we weren't even sure whether the Senate would take this up at all. Now they have seen this near unanimous vote come out of the House. And Thune essentially said that is such a big number, it is kind of the message to act quickly. Now, here's something to consider, though. Mugo, last time you and I talked, we talked about House Speaker Mike Johnson saying he was reluctantly voting for this bill because he had a conversation with Senator Thune to make amendments to this proposal, to this piece of legislation that would satisfy a lot of his concerns about victim protection and other items. But Thune said that there's basically no time to have an amendment process. So there's a little bit of something to be worked out there. And I just asked Speaker Johnson about this, and he said that there are ways to amend this going forward. So we'll see kind of what the process looks like. But the big takeaways here are that this was a huge, resounding vote from the House of Representatives, something that came from the rank and file, so from the bottom up, not the top down. And now we know that the Senate is likely to take this up too.
And we also know Epstein survivors were on the Hill today, and they watched the vote from the gallery. GOP Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was with them earlier. What did she have to say?
That's right, and we actually saw many of these survivors come out of the Capitol and were hugging each other after this vote. Marjorie Taylor Greene has really been at the forefront of pushing for these files to be released, and that has earned her the ire of the President of the United States because they have been kind of vocally opposing each other, at least in public. Take a listen to what she said in response.
I was called a traitor by a man that I fought for 6 years for. And I gave him my loyalty for free. I won my first election without his endorsement, beating 8 men in a primary. And I've never owed him anything, but I fought for him for the policies and for America first. And he called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition.
Now, this whole issue has really caused rifts within the Republican Party, within the MAGA movement. I mean, up until this weekend, the president had been trying to lobby against this measure, trying to convince those who had signed on to it, Republicans, to take their names off of it before eventually deciding to support this. The writing had been on the wall. There were always going to be a lot of Republicans supporting this because it was such an animating issue among the base and something that they had called for during the Biden administration. So you've seen these rifts. We'll see if they heal. But bottom line, Republican leadership at this point wants to put this behind them, move forward on the issues that they say they want to talk about, like the economy and affordability.
And Caitlin, let's talk about this because we saw the president shift his stance on releasing the files. But if the president wants to release all those files, he doesn't need the approval of Congress, right? He could just do it.
He absolutely could just do it. And there was a frustration among lawmakers up here that the Justice Department wasn't releasing all of the files. And so that's why you had this petition led by Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, to compel the administration to do this. Now, I asked Representative Massie just about an hour ago, is there anything that the president could do now to withhold these files if this passes into law and is signed by the president? And he said essentially what this law would do is make it a criminal act if he doesn't release all of the files, if the Justice Department doesn't release all of the files. So we will see what comes out of this, and what we're watching for is how fast the Senate takes it up, how quickly this makes it to the president's desk, and if there are any calls for any sort of redactions. There were concerns among some lawmakers up here that because of all the lawsuits going on, that the administration could, not release everything that it should be compelled by this piece of legislation. So we will see, but still huge news here today, and something that has been months in the making, and pretty surprising that it all happened the way it did.
Yeah, we'll wait and see what comes next. CHB at the Capitol for us today. Thank you so much for your time. More than a dozen Epstein survivors took to the steps of the Capitol ahead of today's vote, and they had one message: look beyond the politics. They sent that request to Congress as a group of bipartisan lawmakers stood next to them. So here's a little bit from that very emotional press conference.
I want everybody to take a look. I know everybody sees us today as grown adults, but we are fighting for the children that were abandoned and left behind in the reckoning. And to the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. I am traumatized. I am not stupid.
This was me at 14 years old. I was a child. It is time to take the honest, moral ground and support the release of these files, not to weaponize pieces of the files against random political enemies that did nothing wrong, but to understand who Epstein's friends were, who covered for him, what financial institutions allowed his trafficking to continue.
This isn't just one case gone wrong. It's an institutional failure on a historic scale, and every member of Congress and this administration must answer for that failure.
Meanwhile, President Trump rolled out a red carpet welcome for Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House today. It featured cannons and a military flyover. The two leaders held a bilateral meeting to discuss major business and national security deals. The president had this strong reaction to a reporter's question about the Epstein files.
Why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
It's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
All right, let's bring in White House reporter Aaron Navarro for much more on this. Aaron, the president has been fielding questions on this for the last few days. It's clearly getting on his nerves as the House pushes this bill one step closer to his desk. So what are you hearing from the White House about this?
Yeah, you saw the president continue kind of the pattern of his answers when he's asked about this in the past, where he creates distance between himself and Epstein, noting that he kicked Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club, and then he pivots to the investigations he's called for on prominent Democrats whose names have been linked to Epstein since those emails came out just last week. He named former President Bill Clinton, whose team said the emails proved, quote, he did nothing wrong and knew nothing about Epstein, and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who said yesterday that he is taking a step back from public commitments and is ashamed of his communications with Epstein well after he was a registered sex offender. The president in the Oval Office went on to call this Epstein story in general, quote, a Democrat hoax and distraction from the trade deals that the U.S. is making. And he, as you saw in that clip, heavily criticized the reporter that asked about that, at one point saying that the broadcast license for ABC News should be taken away. When it comes to the vote to release the files itself, Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters today on Capitol Hill that he believes Trump, quote, sounds like he's prepared to sign that bill. One thing to watch for, though, is if any of these files are heavily redacted, as the president has called for an active investigation linked to Democrats and Epstein.